It's 5:37, so a judge has ordered protesters to remove a big wooden barrier which has been stopping the energy company Rathlin getting onto their gas prospecting site at Walkington near Beverley. The barrier was built by campaigners who are opposed to fracking. Today, the judge rejected moves by the campaigners to get today's hearing adjourned and ruled the protesters must remove the obstacle immediately. So, will they now do that? Where do we go from here? Richard Howarth is a spokesman for the group H.E.Y, Frack Off, which is involved in the protest at Walkington. Richard, good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
So, are you now going to remove the barrier?
I think what's going on here is this is the oil and gas industry getting increasingly desperate and going to a more extreme lengths. And I think there's quite what's been interesting that's come out of this is the level of support from local people. There's been loads of new groups opposed to unconventional oil and gas industry springing up, and there's several locals now up at site showing support. I don't think they're about to pack up and go home. In fact, residents and protectors up there are raising the barricades and taking to the battlements.
So was that a no? Are you going to remove the barrier, yes or no?
The protectors are a group of individuals, and they'll also as well, but I don't think they are now.
But a judge has said you should. I mean, there can be no arguing with that. A judge at the High Court has listened to both sides of the argument and said that's got to come down.
Although that is the legal standpoint, what Rathlin do not have is social licence. What we've seen in other parts of the country is that as people understand more and more about this industry and the implications of what it means, opposition gets higher and higher. And until about 80 or 90% of people are generally opposed to this kind of work going on. So although they may have a legal right to go ahead, what they don't have is support of the locals.
Whether or not they have that, as you correctly say, they do have the law behind them now. So if the protesters, yourselves, if you don't take that down now, as ordered by the judge, the bailiffs will arrive, won't they?
And I mean, one thing that came out of this case was we had numerous letters of support which were taken to court in offer of support of the case. And one of the things that came out of those letters was that the only reason that we found out about the environmental incidents that have been happening on site are because the protectors are there bearing witness and recording what's going on. And a lot of local people who were initially apprehensive and quite anxious about the camps being present have since changed their mind because they've realised what an important job the protectors are doing.
Isn't the danger now, though, that if the protesters stand firm there and the bailiffs arrive, as they're entitled to do now, and order that be removed, that actually we're now looking at the danger of public disorder in a quiet, rural East Yorkshire community?
Since this camp has been there since day one, it's always been absolutely non-violent and peaceful protest, and those are fundamental principles of everyone who's involved in it. And, there hasn't been a single act of aggression against the oil company and what's going on there. So, it's going to stay peaceful at all times. And one interesting thing, actually, that came out of this legal case is when Rathlin originally put in the planning application, they said, this proposal is a temporary exploration drilling operation. We feel it necessary to emphasise the short-term and temporary nature of our application, which is why they were only given 2 years. And something that came out of the legal papers was that they've actually signed a lease with the farmer with the right to require the land for 50 years. So all along it was quite clear from Rathlin that actually they're planning on being there for a very long time.
What about the protesters? How long are they planning to be there for, do you think?
I think they'll be there for as long as it takes. I think because we've seen that when people do realise what this industry is all about, opposition is so high, it is only a matter of time before fracking and unconventional oil and gas is banned in this country. But the only question is, will it happen before or after a serious environmental incident? And the test that they want to do, there are risks associated with that, but it will also give them information about whether they can go ahead with fracking in future. And it's about preventing that and the risks associated with it.
It's all going to be a bit expensive now, isn't it? Because the judge has ruled that the protesters, depending on the money that they have available, have to pay the costs incurred by Rathlin.
Well, good luck to Rathlin in retrieving those costs.
Well, that's, again, enforceable by law, isn't it? I mean, the problem is, this has been a very bad day for the protesters, isn't it?
Obviously it's disappointing that the case wasn't moved to East Yorkshire so that we could hear it, but the camp will still be there. The camp will still be there in the verges. The eviction order doesn't apply to the whole camp, it's just to the part of the camp at the entrance. And, so they're going to carry on recording what's going on, registering their process, and raising awareness of what's going on at the site.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Richard Howarth there.